silently enduring, quietly taking action. That is the strength of a person who has the qualities to succeed. This video will tell the story of someone who became successful starting from nothing. But before telling this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like this? You know you need to change. You know you need to start something, but day after day, you remain stuck. Not because you don't want to, but because you can't seem to begin. You tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. You'll change tomorrow. But then tomorrow passes, just like today. And gradually, you start to believe that maybe you lack motivation. Maybe you're not good enough. Or worse, maybe you're just not the kind of person who can succeed. But if I tell you this, maybe you don't lack motivation at all. Maybe you just misunderstand it. Now, let me tell you a story. A very real story, very similar to what you are going through. This is the story of Jane Liu, a girl born into an ordinary immigrant family in Australia, with no money, no connections, and no special advantages. Like many people, she grew up believing something very familiar. If you study well and get a stable job, your life will be fine. And she did exactly that. She studied hard and got an office job that many people dream of. From the outside, her life seemed completely stable. But then, one day, everything collapsed. She was fired without warning, without preparation, without any backup plan. In just a few minutes, everything she believed was certain disappeared completely. But what hurt her the most was not losing her job, but that she didn't dare tell her parents. That feeling was real, heavy. The feeling of once being your family's pride and suddenly not daring to face them. And then she did something that many people out there are also doing. Every morning, she still dressed in office clothes, still left the house as usual, but she didn't go to work. She sat in a cafe, opened her laptop, pretended to be busy, while in her mind there was only one question repeating over and over. What am I doing with my life? Then she decided to try business. A small online store, a few products, a little bit of hope. But reality was not like she imagined. No customers, no orders. She tried again, changed products, changed her approach, but the result was still the same. Failure. There were days she sat alone, staring at the screen, asking herself whether she wasn't good enough, whether she should go back to her old job, or whether she should stop right there. This is the moment when most people give up, not because they lack ability, but because they are too tired. But Jane Liu didn't stop. She began to look back at everything, not to blame herself, but to understand where the real problem was. And then she realized something very important. It wasn't that she lacked motivation. It was that she was doing things the wrong way. She didn't understand customers. She had no system, no clear direction. And from that moment on, everything began to change. She didn't try harder. She started doing things the right way. She chose a clear market, fashion for young women, and began building her brand, Shopo. No office, no staff, no large capital. She did everything herself, taking product photos in her bedroom, modeling herself, posting content, replying to every customer. Day after day, no one knew who she was. No one cared what she was doing. But she kept going. Not because she had more motivation than others, but because she understood that if she stopped, she would definitely fail. And then the results began to appear. From one small order, then 2, then 10, then 100. Customers came back, recommended her to others, and the brand began to grow. From a small room, Shopo became $1 million company, selling globally. And the girl who once sat in a cafe, pretending to go to work, is now a CEO. But the most important thing is not the success story, but the lesson behind it. If you look closely, you will see that Jane didn't succeed because she had more motivation than you. She succeeded because she understood how to create motivation. In the book I put in the description below, there is something very important I want you to remember. Motivation is not something you have. It is something you can build. It doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from action. And this is what most people misunderstand. You think you need motivation before you act, but the truth is, you must act first. Then motivation will come. This book explains very clearly that when your goals are too big, you won't act. Not because you are lazy, but because it is too hard to start. That is why you need to start very small. So small that you cannot refuse. Not working out for an hour a day, just 10 minutes. Not changing your whole life, just changing one small action. And when you do that, something very important will happen. You begin to feel that you can do it, and that feeling is motivation. You take action, you get small results. You become more confident, and you continue taking action. That loop creates what the book calls momentum, and it is what will change your life. But if you don't start, nothing will happen. You will remain the same. 1 month later, 3 months later, 1 year later, you will still start and quit, still set goals and forget them. Not because you don't try, but because you don't have the right method. And that is why I want you to read this book. Not because it is great, but because it is practical. It doesn't talk about complicated things. It shows you why you always start and then quit, why you always feel unmotivated, and most importantly, a very simple way for you to start again. You don't have to do everything. You just need to start with one small thing. I've left the link to the book in the description below. You don't have to believe me. Just read a few pages, and you will understand a lot about yourself. And before you leave this video, I want to ask you something very real. What is one thing you want to change in your life? Write it down in the comments below. Just one sentence. It doesn't have to be long. Just one thing you truly want to change. Because sometimes, the moment you dare to write it down is the moment you have already started. If you find this story meaningful, please subscribe to the channel. I will continue to share many stories like this, Stories not just to listen to, but to truly help you change. Maybe a few months from now, when you come back to this video,